Hey ladies, I'm so glad you're back today. So for this video, I asked you guys on my Instagram what you wanted to see for this week. And you guys asked to see wounded feminine signs. And on top of that, I'm also going to teach you what they are, not only what they are, but also how to heal them and how to move forward and become actually like a divine feminine woman. So let's start with what is wounded feminine energy. So to put it simply, it's basically you have yourself living in survival mode as well as your triggered version of yourself. So basically, if you don't know what it means to be triggered, whenever you're out doing something or you're with someone or you literally consuming anything, being in the world around you, anything that triggers you, it's gonna cause either frustration or anger or resentment inside of you. And this is a very low frequency feeling. Like it can alter you all day. You feel it for a moment. You can feel it in your shoulders, in your chest, in your neck, in your throat, all of those things. And then if you're living in survival mode, this is basically what the world has come to, honestly. Everyone lives in survival mode at this point. So survival mode is basically when you are just living to survive. You're living to work. You go to work, you come home, you eat, you rest. Kind of like you have this almost depressing routine on repeat. You're not doing anything for yourself. You're not taking care of yourself. It's kind of like, how can I just get through this day? How can I just get through this day over and over and over again? To help you ladies kind of spot what traits you may have that could be your wounded feminine, I kind of divvied them up into 3 parts. So there's your light wounded, your dark wounded, and both of them combined, just wounded in general. What all types of women demonstrate as wounded feminine, because I do think we can all have a mixture of these, but just to make it a lot easier and not bombard you, you can kind of think, okay, is my light feminine energy wounded? Is my dark feminine energy wounded? Or we have some that kind of are just both, that any woman who is in her wounded feminine will have. So to start off, if you have a light wounded feminine energy, you're gonna be a people pleaser. And this means that you don't have any boundaries. You kind of just want to be liked. You look for that external validation a lot out of people liking you for whether it be your looks, your mind, who you are, your character. You kind of want to play up that nice girl persona. You want people to like you. You want to have friends. I used to be like this all the time. I grew up always wanting to be liked. I would deal with whatever came at me, especially in early childhood. I would be friends with girls that were not nice to me at all. Like, they would want me to do things I didn't want to do. They said, if you don't do this, you're not going to be my friend anymore. And they would kind of manipulate me in a way that was just unkind. And I just, because I craved that validation, I wanted to be friends with them. I wanted to be liked all the time. So that is going to be, you know, you're light wounded. You have that people pleaser, nice girl act that you want to put on. This can also carry on into the workplace. You know, you don't want to say no to people. You're constantly giving. That's another one that I have here. You're constantly giving to others and you don't expect anything back, or you kind of let people walk all over you. Like a doormat, basically, like a human doormat is what people would say. So if you are constantly giving to others, you are always going to be low energy at a low frequency, because you are also not doing anything for yourself. You know, no one is giving toward you, you're not receiving. You kind of just want to keep helping people so you can feel better about you yourself. Again, this comes from the external validation. You helping other people validates yourself, instead of you having that validation within yourself, knowing that you're a good person, knowing what you contribute and how valuable you are. So instead, you're kind of like, oh, I'm gonna do XYZ for all these people throughout the week because I want to make sure that they know I'm a good friend, that I'm accountable, that I'm all these things. But that's okay, you already know that you are. If you ladies hear that noise, my neighbor has a saw on, he's doing some work, so if you hear that, just ignore it. And as well, for light wounded feminine women, you are very indecisive and you are too dependent on others. So this means that you can't really make a decision because, again, you're worried about other people. It's hard for you. You're always in your mind, which is a trait that both wounded feminine energy types have. So you're always in your mind about what to do, how to do it, where you want to go, what do you want to eat. You have trouble listening to yourself because you don't trust yourself. And again, so the trusting aspect, you're too dependent and you're too trusting. So that means you value others more than yourself, right? So you are going to be more trusting in other people's choices and decisions, and you're constantly going to be second guessing yourself. You're constantly going to ask, hey, maybe at work, does this look okay? Does this appeal to you? What do you think of this? Like, you're constantly wanting to get the validation from other people. And you might be too dependent in relationships or friendships, things like that. Again, because you can't make decisions for yourself, you have that lack of trust within you. So you're going to be very dependent on your partner, and you're going to want your partner to either take control or kind of guide the entire relationship. Of course, we want someone that can guide us, because that's what being in a companionship is about. You have codependency on one another, but you are too dependent in a way where it is interfering with your own personal life. Because yes, we have our partners and we depend on them, but we also need to have our own independence. You rule your own life, and this is the body that you have, and you have it forever, and you need to know how to have that independence within yourself. Okay, so next up with dark feminine, wounded dark feminine, excuse me. So if you are your wounded dark feminine, this used to be me a lot. I think I was definitely wounded dark feminine before I tapped into my divine feminine and before I was embracing my light feminine. So wounded dark feminine women are very judgmental and critical, and this might be a hard pill to swallow. For me, I used to, oh my gosh, this is like embarrassing to say. I used to be the type of person where I was like, of course I judge people. I judge everyone. They say don't judge a book by its cover, but what do? We go to Barnes & Noble and we look at a book and we're like, oh, I like this cover. Let me see what it's about. Let me read the back. That used to be me. I used to be very judgmental of people. And I don't know, sometimes I still catch myself doing it. I would find myself critical of other people, how they dressed, how they would present themselves, how they would treat me if I was at work. And I learned that when you do that and you're very hypercritical and judgmental of other people, that's because they are a reflection of you, and there's something within yourself that you aren't happy with. And that is very hard for people to understand, and a lot of times they'd be like, what do you mean? That has nothing to do with me. But if you really do the work and you heal your own soul and your own mental health and emotional well-being, you're going to realize that, wow, a lot of the times, I'll be honest, I used to judge old people a lot. Right now, I'm in Florida with my family, and it's a huge retirement state, and a lot of the times I feel like they'd look at me weird, or they would, make comments on me and things like that. And then I learned I actually have a fear of growing old. I'm scared to be old. I don't want to be a bitter old person. I don't want to, I'm worried about how I may look when I'm older, things like that. So I had to really learn, you have issues with older people because of your own fear of getting old and what that will look like for you and what happens when we get old. I also had a lot of death anxiety. Sometimes I am still scared of death. That's something scary. What if I don't fulfill everything I wanted to fulfill when I'm older and I've aged? So anyways, yeah, when you're judgmental and critical of others, that means that there is something deep inside you that you have to work on. That is all it is. And that's the same thing when someone is judgmental towards you. You have to remember not to react and understand that is a reflection of them and their own insecurity. So another big one is impulsivity. So when you are your wounded dark feminine, you're very impulsive in your decision making. So you have light wounded feminine women that are indecisive, and dark wounded feminine women are very, very impulsive. You do things on a whim, you don't want to think about it, you are ruling from emotion. That is usually what happens. You are constantly making a choice through, oh, this person makes me feel this way, or this event, or this circumstance, and I'll block this person, I'll unfollow this person. Some people, it's an addiction. It could be with drugs, it could be drinking, gambling, porn, things like that. I just say corn so I don't get banned or anything. But yeah. So if you're a very impulsive person and you don't think, you just act on a whim based on how you're feeling, that is wounded dark feminine energy. So next as well, you are in your wounded dark feminine if you're always taking. If you're always taking from other people, if you're not, I guess this is what you would call maybe an energy vampire. So this is also the types of women that are consistently wanting partners or men for their money. dating people for their money. A good example that's been going on right now is, what's her name? It's Young Miami with P. Diddy. And you can see that she's going for the bag. You know, she doesn't care who he is or what he does. He has money and he has the bag, and you know, you want to chase the bag and you want to chase more fame and things like that. You're doing things and taking them. You constantly want to take from others, and you aren't good at receiving. I mean, you aren't good at giving, excuse me. You always want to receive, but you don't want to give back. You kind of are just like, okay, well, what am I gonna get from this? What am I gonna gain? You're constantly thinking like that instead of doing things for the greater good, doing things out of the kindness of your own heart. You constantly want to take from others because that fuels you. And again, that's that external validation that wounded feminine women need, right? So if you are constantly taking from other people, you're getting that external validation of, oh, all these people want to give things to me, like, oh, these people love me, I'm amazing. So that is kind of what it means when you're always taking instead of giving. And lastly, how we have light wounded feminine women are too dependent on others. Hyper independent women, dark wounded feminine women are hyper independent and they do not trust anyone at all. A lot of women today, I think, struggle with this as well, because we want to have that girl boss attitude. We want to go to work, do what we need to do. You know, we are constantly in survival mode. So a lot of that results in hyper independency. So when you're hyper independent, that means that you do not want help from anyone else. You're like, I don't need a man. I don't need any help. I'm better off alone. And I think we all kind of have that thought sometimes. And I used to be this way too. I used to be like, I don't need anyone. Like, I'm better off alone. No one can understand me. Especially when I would go through a lot of failed relationships, I'd be like, I think I'm not meant to find anyone and I can handle it all by myself. Like, I don't need a man, things like that. Especially women that are saying, I hate all men or all men suck. That is extreme example of wounded dark feminine energy, because you are constantly in, first of all, a low frequency, low vibrational state. So everything that you're spewing is going to come back out to you. So you say that all men are bad, okay, you're going to get all the bad men. And that goes into they don't trust. Saying all men are bad, all men suck, all men cheat, all men lie. Then you're in, or, you know, all women, whatever it is, whoever you date. Saying that shows that you do not have the ability to trust. And usually, when you do not have the ability to trust others, you have trouble trusting yourself. You have trouble trusting your own judgment. So that's why you're constantly saying, oh, all these people are terrible. And secretly, you say that as projection, like we said before. It's inner work that you have to do. You're saying all these people suck when really you're criticizing your own judgment of other people, and you're criticizing the partners that you've had in the past. Okay, so that kind of does it for your light wounded feminine and your dark wounded feminine. Let me know down below what you ladies think you are. But a lot of us, like, if you have one that's like higher than the other, you know, but a lot of us do exhibit both of these behaviors. But the common ground where, let's say you feel like, okay, I don't really know which one I am, for light and dark wounded feminine energies, there are similarities. So the first one would be emotional instability. It's kind of similar to the wounded dark feminine, where you react a lot based off your emotions, but light wounded feminine energy women, it's not so much as the impulsivity. You kind of do it in a way that, how can I phrase this? Your emotions rule you, if that makes sense. So you don't ever sit down with yourself, ground yourself, you know, think critically. You're kind of always in an emotional state, and you're always going to maybe take things personally a lot. That's what I used to do. I used to think everything was a personal attack. People would say I'm sensitive, things like that. That's kind of that emotional instability that I mean. You don't have a rule over your emotions, and you can't control them at all. Another one is you're always seeking control. And I think this is the biggest one for women nowadays, especially because, again, we're in survival mode. So you want to know what's best for you, do what's best for you. You want that control, whether it be of people, which is so bad. Don't control other people. You either want control of people or It can be circumstantial and situational. So for me, I didn't really control my significant others, but I was always planning dates. I was always thinking of what time, when and where, the location, is it safe, things like that. I had to take control of everything, everything. You have trouble with spontaneity. And that used to be me. I was like, I don't like spontaneous things, like they freak me out, because again, that's you not having control. You can have an even balance of spontaneity and being in control of things. And it also happens in a lot of partnerships. I've talked to a lot of women, and this was me as well. I was controlling of how things were done around my home. My husband would try to do something, and I'd be like, next time do it this way, or can you not do it that way, or whatever. But the thing is, the thing still got done. Like, just because he did it a certain way that was different for me doesn't mean that it's not serving its purpose. So definitely be careful when you constantly feel the need to be in control. And the next one is the external validation. So I won't go back in depth with this, but again, you want to feel loved or liked from others. You do not have a sense of your own value and what you provide to other people. So you're constantly wondering, how you can make them like you more or love you more, and how that can fuel you. And lastly, this goes back into being in survival mode. You might also be a very anxious person. Like, anxiety and worry and fear is also at the very bottom of your frequency levels. So if you're constantly anxious, that means you're always in your head. And remember, ladies, masculine energy is the thinking and the doing. Feminine energy is being, and it's resting, and it's being in your body. So when you are at work and you're always in here, if you stay in here when you get home, when you're watching something on Netflix, right when you go to bed, you're constantly in your masculine energy. You need to let go of that anxiety and be in your body and be in your feminine energy. That's why survival mode is very dangerous, because you are constantly also in fight or flight. So now we're probably all wondering, okay, like, why does this happen to me? Why am I like this? How do I fix it? So the main cause of being in your wounded feminine energy, whether it's light or dark, a mix of both, it's because you feel unsafe. There was something in your life that made you feel unsafe. And I said this on my Instagram before. For women in our feminine energy, the most important thing that we need to feel is safety. We want protection. We want to feel safe within ourselves, which is so important. And, it's also important to have a partner that makes you feel safe. Someone that provides that safetiness for you. Of course, we can do it all alone, but that's why it's important when we seek out partners, they also bring us that safety. Because if they don't, then we're going to revert back to being in that survival mode, being in our masculine or our wounded feminine, and either constantly trying to pull that safety out of our partner and be like, make me feel safe, make me feel this way, or you're gonna hop into your masculine and you're gonna go back to, okay, I can make myself feel safe, I can provide, I can do all these things for the relationship and basically carry the entire relationship, right? And so to add to us not feeling safe, why don't we feel safe like I asked before? It's because we're traumatized people. Everyone has trauma. Everyone needs healing, and that is the result. We seek control as traumatized women because we are unsafe. That's the best. That's like the most simplest way I could put why women are inner wounded. I need a sip of water. And it's because when we don't have safety, we're kind of constantly in defense mode. The fight or flight, again, it's either like, am I going to fight, be my dark wounded feminine energy, or is it flight? Am I light wounded feminine energy? Do I have no boundaries? Can I not speak up? Or am I impulsive in my decisions? And do I not trust anyone? How to heal your wounded feminine is, again, do some self-reflection. That's what I said in the beginning of the video. You have to self-reflect on what kind of traits you have and why they're there, because this will reveal your shadow self. So before, I've talked about shadow work and, journaling. That's kind of the same, where you write down a question about yourself or a question about a situation, and you kind of keep delving deep into your answers with different questions. So you get to the root of your limited beliefs or your self-doubt. Your shadow self is basically the person that you may be either a little embarrassed of. If you are a judgmental and critical person, that sometimes can be embarrassing for people. You don't want people to know that you're judging them. Or if you're a people pleaser and you know that you're a walking doormat, like, you don't want people to know that side of you. It's a side of yourself that you kind of hide, or that people will kind of glance over, like, oh, like I'll go to Chloe, she'll always do this, every time I ask her she'll do this. And that makes you feel better, because oh, they know that they can trust me, but you don't have that boundary. So then they come to you with all these favors. Let's say you're at work, they come to me with all these favors at work when I'm tired and I have all these other things I need to do, right? So that is your shadow self, that traumatized, kind of unhealed version of you. That could also be your inner child as well. You know, what happened in childhood that made you very anxious, or that made you super controlling. Some people come from a parental dynamic where, you know, maybe you come from a single parent household, or maybe you come from, you know, one parent is more in control than the other, and one's a yes man or a yes woman, and the other does everything for the whole family, that kind of thing. So it's important to kind of self-reflect, look at, okay, did I grow up this way? If not, was I in a prior relationship or friendship that was this way? And kind of start from there. Start to self-reflect. You need to also start trusting yourself, because that is the biggest reason why women are in their wounded feminine state, is because they lack trust within themselves. You don't trust yourself to make the right choices. You don't trust yourself to be around the right people. You don't trust yourself to kind of get out of survival mode and live for yourself, right? So in order to trust other people, you need to build that trust within yourself, and you need to trust that you can work through whatever your triggers are. There's still moments in time where I'm still triggered and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't get rid of this, like I hate feeling angry. It'll come to a point where your emotions won't overrule you. You're kind of gonna be like, I don't like feeling like this anymore, you know? So that's how you know that you are doing that inner work and you're building trust within yourself, when you can notice a change in your behavior. When I started my like feminine energy journey and I was trying to become a healthier version of myself, my husband even noticed, he was like, I can see that you're a lot calmer now. You're not as anxious, you know, you don't feel the need to kind of fix everything or control the situation. I kind of let him take on some things a lot more, because before I would be like, oh, let's do this, let's do that, I don't know what to do, I don't know, blah, 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 and that would affect me. If I didn't know what I wanted or I didn't know what to do, I felt terrible about myself. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so indecisive, whatever. But I learned to have compassion with myself and to work with myself. And lastly, once you self-reflect and you have trust in yourself that you can heal your wounds and your triggers and things like that, then that is going to help you become a lot more vulnerable with other people. Again, you reflect, you're able to build trust within yourself. And once you build that trust within yourself, it's easier for you to also listen to your intuition, you know, make good judgment of others, not judging others based on what they're doing or how they look. You interact with someone and you can feel their energy. That's what's so amazing about feminine energy. Your intuition speaks for itself. So then you will allow yourself to feel vulnerable with others that you deem trustworthy, that you deem that you feel comfortable around. You build that trust in you so you can determine who you want to be around and who you can trust enough so you can be vulnerable with those people. You know, you're not reacting based off your emotions anymore. You're able to keep them under control, and you're able to be vulnerable with others and really scout out, okay, what kind of close-knit circle do I want? What do I look for in a partner? Because that's the most important part. So once you work on the reflection, the trust, the vulnerability, that's when you can really start delving into your divine feminine. Because just what I wrote about the shadow self and all those things, that is simply how to start your inner work. That is just like a little tinge, a little taste of what it's like to be in your divine feminine. It's the inner work always has to come first. I mean, you can do outward things, you can change your appearance, you can practice more self-care, but inner work definitely is the most important one, because if you can't control how you feel about yourself and your love and compassion for yourself, then the people around you are not going to reflect that toward you. So that's why it's so important to, you know, leave your wounded feminine. Understand that it was there to protect you, because all of this, being in your wounded feminine, it's not necessarily bad. You're just caught in these toxic patterns that made you feel safe. It protected you in a moment in time where you felt like you didn't have protection, you didn't have trust, you didn't have anyone that you could lean on. So it's not a bad thing. It's just something that you can recognize within yourself, like, I don't want to have these toxic patterns anymore. I don't want to follow this anymore. It's not good for me. And so you make the choice to heal those inner wounds and become a divine feminine woman. You have your healthy light and your healthy dark. You're able to exude those energies and switch them on and off whenever you like. And it's just it's a very freeing way of being. You know, the highest level of frequency, it's joy, it's love, it's peace. That's what you want to feel every day. If you catch yourself feeling angry or resentment or unforgiveness towards others all the time, that is all you're going to receive back to you. But the universe, God, Allah, whatever you believe in, when you radiate at that higher frequency, they're going to see that and it's going to come back to you. You're going to get people like that. You're going to attract partners and friendships like that. It's going to be so much easier to get everything you desire by going through inner work. So that concludes my video today. I really hope you ladies enjoyed it. This was a very fun one to make. It was very passionate for me because I remember when I was this person, and it's just so amazing to kind of see your own self level up. You're gonna notice those shifts when you start working on yourself, I promise you, in your appearance, in your health, in the people around you. It's amazing. So I will see you ladies next week with a new video, and I hope you have a good one. Bye.